Hello and welcome to the Pet Healer Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Mitzi Vargas, and today we're going to talk about cat poop. And diarrhea in cats is a very common problem. I actually have a couple of clients that they're TCVM clients, and they came to me as a last resort. They were about to put their kitties to sleep, and one of them is called Rebel, and Rebel is a girl, beautiful. Great kitty, beautiful, super sweet, very scary cat. She's scared of a lot of things, and so she lives in a constant state of stress. Any little changes in the house, and she responds with, colitis. But she had had diarrhea for 3 years. 3 years. And when I talk diarrhea, I'm not talking soft stool that is formed and is in the litter box. This is the cat's walking around and is dribbling diarrhea everywhere in the house. And they love this cat so much, and they're such great people. They've took her to many places, multiple doctors, specialists, and nobody could find out how to stop the diarrhea. So of course, as a last approach, they come, and I did acupuncture, Taijin Yaming, and I did a herbal formula called Happy Earth, and that cat just turned around completely, 100% improvement, no more diarrhea, complete control of the feces, and she did great. I did not change the food. That was tried. It didn't work. I did not send a panel to the lab to determine parasites. That had been done, and it was negative. They have done lymphoma workup, including doing abdominal ultrasound, and it was negative for lymphoma. But they really didn't know what caused it. So there's such word as idiopathic. It doesn't mean we're idiots and we cannot figure out. It means it. Nobody knows why, but it happens. I really think it's stress related. It's liver chi stagnation. The liver energy is stagnant, and that's what causes everything to go awry, to heat up the internal heater of the body and promote inflammation. That's really my explanation in TCVM world. But in this case, Rebel did a wonderful transformation. Also, we just lost a couple of really great kitties that had been diagnosed with lymphoma, and we kept them for over 2 years, 2.5 years, no vomiting, no diarrhea, doing great and gaining weight. And then, of course, unfortunately, the lymphoma progressed to a point where they were obstructed, and then they were put down. But we gave 2.5 years of wonderful quality of life with TCVM. But I think that some of the cases that come to me are not idiopathic. They are easily found out. And I was reading an article where trichomonas and other parasites in cats, like Giardia, have not been diagnosed. So people do immediately, when the cat has diarrhea, they assume it's a food reaction or sensitivity, and they change the diet. Well, cats are not very particularly, agreeable with changing foods. And so it's very difficult for the clients. Sometimes it could even cause hepatic lipidosis with the fatty liver disease, where the cat refuses to eat. And so that's a change. But I always advocate for changing diet if we've worked up the whole thing and we haven't found the cause. Then definitely a food trial with a hydrolyzed food is definitely indicated. But sometimes we jump to it first thing, and we've forgotten to run fecals, to run Giardia tests, to send our fecals for diarrhea panels to the lab, where they do PCR testing on the stools, and they find out if there's any protozoal organisms or things like that, because they do cause. They might be, if you put a pyramid of causes, the bottom of the pyramid could be GI parasites, especially stomach parasites in the cat. And these parasites cause a lot of problems: ulcers, vomiting, and chronic diarrhea. And I think that this is one of the first steps that most clinicians should do. And like I said, as an integrity practitioner, I do see end stage cases, last hope, Hail Mary type cases. And when I look back, I've realized that it has not worked out properly. And so if you're a veterinarian listening to me, please remember, if there's a pyramid base, the base of it, most common thing that it could happen in any cat, especially in young ones, is parasites. So make sure that you do that. Don't go jump to lymphoma. Don't jump to IBD immediately. That's the more rarest cases. It could be idiopathic because, again, that would be at the bottom of the pyramid too. We don't know. Now, I would say that it's fairly common to have food allergies and food reactions, especially because the cat foods, they're mostly kibble. We depart from the natural selection, natural environment, natural foods. The prey, whole prey is the ideal food for them. And of course, that's quite different than dry kibble. So we get in some trouble with that. But sometimes they're even colon specific. It could be a mega colon issue. It could be an innervation of the colon issue. Acupuncture using huatujajis, which are half Schwinn of midline point in the intervertebral spaces. It will really be very effective if you do vitamin B12 on the huatujajis and you do Taijin mean pattern using C points and shoestring points, level 3 and level 5 of all those 4 meridians, lung, large intestine, spleen, and stomach. It really will address the problem. Most of them, even the idiopathic, we don't know what it is. Well, we can do TCVM, and it will clearly take care about 40% of all the cases that we see. So do we have lymphoma? Absolutely. And with age, the chances that it's lymphoma is higher. The chances that it's IBD also is higher. Unbeknownst to us, sometimes we think that IBD, you're born with it and you're going to show it up first year of age. And sometimes that's the case, but most of the time it is developed. It is a chronic food sensitivity that doesn't get addressed. These are chronic vomiters, chronic diarrhea cats, and they create that. So I had another case that was diagnosed as lymphoma, but they didn't do an ultrasound and they didn't do any test. It was just because he didn't respond to the deworming, very simple deworming, and didn't respond to antibiotics, and it didn't respond to the food trial. But they didn't work up a full diarrhea panel, and they didn't work up for lymphoma. So there is a test from the VDI laboratories in California, a VDI test that tests for fetal lymphoma. It also has markers for inflammatory bowel disease. So at least, if you're not sure if it's lymphoma or IBD, use VDI labs, and then you'll see if it's lymphoma or IBD, and then treat, because the expectation obviously is different. But I even think that IBD would be the pathway to developing lymphoma. In some cases, I think that guy that was diagnosed with IBD was on the path to develop lymphoma and is doing great now. His name is Daniel. He's a cat. And he's doing really well. But it's acupuncture and Happy Earth as well. Yeah. So acupuncture and Happy Earth as one of the top combinations that I use. I also use Shenlin Bai Su. It's an herbal that is great for spleen qi deficiency. So I have these cats that also have other issues like diabetes, other hormonal issues. So I know that they're pretty deficient. And so Shenlin Bai Su has been really useful. Using the powder is a lot easier in churu, and they can eat it, and they do well. So I think that before we pop antibiotics without checking for parasites, without checking for blood work, checking for x-rays, checking, doing a trial of hydrolyzed protein, don't be giving a lot of antibiotics or dewormings freely-nilly, because what you're doing is predisposing these cats to develop antibiotic-resistant bacteria or antibiotic-resistant pathogens, and then you're making your work even harder. So one of the great satisfactions is to receive these Hail Mary cases and see them turn around 100%. But it is hard work because they have tried a lot of things and because there's some damage that has been done for the things that they already tried. And so remember, don't go for the zebras. Not everything is a zebra. It could be just a common horse. Don't go for the weird ones. Make sure that you cover the basics, which is definitely a good stool examination, that it just not in-house with the in-house tech, send it for centrifugation to the lab, send PCR testing for the common pathogens that can cause diarrhea in cats, and make sure that you know and you're working your way up the pyramid of poop in cats. I hope you learned something today. If you did, remember, hit the notification button and subscribe and share with your friends. And until the next episode, stay well.